Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. Hope everybody is having a wonderful day. We'll be giving you a full summary on the market, including some macroeconomic data that came out today that was kind of contradicting in my opinion, and some pieces of data that'll be coming out tomorrow that a lot of eyeballs will be looking at, especially with a little bit of uncertainty that's being sprinkled into the market right now in terms of the September seasonality. Are we finally seeing this little bit of a pullback that everybody was expecting? Now the question is, how far is this pullback going to extend into? Is there going to be a bottom here? Is a buy in the dip going to basically occur? What's my current opinion and end of the year type of prediction for the broader market? On top of that, we'll be talking about Palantir, its current structure, what we're seeing technically, and on top of that, a big stock, a big trendy retail stock that has started to climb to the top of my watch list due to some recent trading. Now, if you are a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and let's pop it up on the screen here. What we see with Palantir currently trading at 179.56. Now, Palantir, ever since it's had its local reversal at this bottom right here at this 164, popping back up here to this 180s, is doing a good job of consolidating at this zone. And we've talked about this before. Anytime Palantir makes a move, whether that's an upside or a downside move, typically we do see some sideways trading, and Palantir just kind of cools off and just holds there. That's what we're seeing right now, and especially around these all-time highs. If we see any type of a macroeconomic structure change, if we see any bullish momentum, any big catalyst or headlines that do come in for Palantir, that is where I think you could get a resistance test, of course, at those all-time highs at 189. And if those are broken, if that's pushed through that resistance point, that's where I think you can see the testing of that $200 price target that I personally have towards the end of the year. Now, looking at the news or what we've seen in Palantir, no big catalyst coming in today, in the overnight trading hours really not moving a ton. And what we are seeing in the broader market, futures are actually up slightly here, about 0.11%, not making any big moves. I think one of the big things, and especially with what we see with the SPY right now, up about $1.24 actually in the overnight session on Robinhood. A lot of the market is awaiting, Wall Street, retail and stuff, is awaiting a big piece of macroeconomic data. Basically, little change here, waiting for a big jobs report that will be coming in. In terms of that, the Thursday's release of the weekly jobless claims, why there's a lot of eyeballs on this, is because this is basically going to provide a key economic data point that could influence the Federal Reserve's monetary policy and increasing concerns about a weakening labor market and rising layoffs. So earlier this week, that's where we had Powell come out talking about here that, hey, the markets, equities could be fairly highly valued, I think were the direct words that he said. And that's what kind of brought some uncertainty and spooked the market a little bit. Most likely due here, and he's kind of reemphasized it too, to the weakening labor market. Now, one thing that is still keeping me bullish towards the end of the year is that the consumer is still remaining relatively very strong, even in light here of this weakening labor market. So with interest rate cuts, we have 50 basis points that are kind of being priced in for the end of the year, and even some more that continue on into 2026. Another big piece that came out for macroeconomic data today was the new home sales for August here. 800,000 versus 650,000 expected. I'm a big content creator, have posted this on X, saying that it looks like people began buying before the rate cut in September, just based on the expectation of rate cuts coming in. So this is telling me, looking at this data right here, in terms of the confidence interval that's behind it, I haven't looked at, I don't dig that deep into it, but just looking at the big headline right here, home sales, 800,000 versus 650,000 expected. If that is holding up to be true, if that data does have a lot of support behind it, then that is telling me that the consumer is still remaining relatively strong in the face of a weakening labor market. We've seen that with consumption data that has came out recently. One big thing is we also have Costco earnings that will be coming out. I believe it's tomorrow, Costco earnings, and that is going to give me a good indicator. I think the retail community, a good indicator on the consumer type of environment. Looking at the S&P 500 index right here, pulls back slightly at 6637. Now, one big thing that I do like about the S&P 500 index, it is still holding above the 6600 level. Now, the 6600 level was a strong point of resistance that was kind of tested multiple times before it broke through. So if we continue to see a pullback in the short term here, definitely going to be seeing if that's going to be basically be acting as a support level. If it does, if it holds, this is kind of more the buy the dip situation. The market really hasn't pulled back a ton, just slightly here over the last 2 days. And what you're seeing is a lot of the stocks are starting to kind of remain relatively stable. Some of the tech stocks are experiencing more volatility. So in terms of panic that's you're seeing across the board, I think that's kind of over dramatified. Anything that I'm personally seeing on X, I'm personally not uncertain or seeing any type of panic here. Not seeing big changes in flow, in the structure. In terms of the daily, weekly, monthly charts for a lot of the indices, the QQQ, the SPY, S&P 500, all these structures are looking quite well. So that's why I'm still not concerned about a stronger pullback quite yet. If one does happen though, then I wouldn't be entirely surprised too. I'm talking about like a 5% pullback just due to the fact of the increase in the momentum that we've seen since the April lows and the whole tariff scare. So that's my 2 cents on it. One big stock that I really do have on the top of my radar though right now is BMNR. We've been talking about BMNR, and we talked about this kind of local bottom here at this, 39 level. I became interested and actually took, a position right about this 48 and then sold right here at about this 59 level right here on the swing and kind of exited at a good time. And what you can see here, BMNR is starting to face a little bit of selling pressure, not a ton of buying volume that is coming in. Selling pressure right now is taking control. The bears do have some control on the stock in terms of the short term. But since I don't have a position, this is starting to rise to the top of my watch list because I'm going to be looking to see when this bottoms out. Now, nothing specifically big has been happening within BMNR. You do have that direct offering of that private, of that big investor at that 14% premium that we had talked about a few videos ago with those warrants being issued at that 87.50. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch yesterday's video about the only kind of internal things happening within BMNR. Other than that, what we're seeing is Ethereum that is actually experiencing a decent dip, and this is why we're seeing BMNR that is kind of tracing that exact same technical pattern. Ethereum was at about 4,500 and is now down to about 4,000 as we speak at the point of this video. At 4,000, that is a very important support zone for Ethereum. So I'm going to be personally watching it like a hawk, and this is going to become an interesting possible trade for me. If Ethereum is able to hold that support at 4,000, if I see some type of reversal that gets pushed into a technical type of structure that I like, along with the macroeconomic kind of, if the broader market is starting to look more green, if we're starting to see optimism that's re-emerging back in the market, that's when I'll have a lot of eyeballs on BMNR because I like Tom Lee, I love Fundstrat, and I love what he's doing in terms of execution to work on achieving that 5% goal of having 5% of Ethereum within BMNR. And I think that'd be a big move. He's very bullish on that, and that gives me a little bit of exposure to crypto, which right now I don't currently have none because I'm not in any positions with it. But on top of that, what you see with that also, let's talk about a big retail volatile stock, Open, which we know saw a lot of resistance here at the 10, kind of sold off here to the 7s. What you see here is up about another 16% of the day. It's a very volatile stock. Please, if you're trading the stock, please be careful out there. This is basically, I think, on the home sales data that we got, beating those expectations quite well. Open Door had a decent amount of volatility that came in, some positive momentum. Other than that, the stocks we've been talking about, ASTS, really not making a ton of huge volatile swings. ASTS was already beat down a lot in terms of a big, bull market that we've been in, beat down here to the 36. So they've kind of already had their sell-off. This could be an interesting kind of zone right here, awaiting for some big announcements. Nebius has been on a good run here at 113, been doing quite well, pretty crazy when we were talking about the stock at $50. And CoreWeave is at an interesting setup right here. People think CoreWeave is going to be possibly be going in for a run here relatively in the near future. Another big stock that I'm interested in right now, SoFi, kind of topped out at $30 at this all-time high, is here at 28. It's just kind of hanging out and experiencing a little bit of volatility down about 2.2% on the day. Also just kind of following the general sell-off that we're seeing in the market. So other than that, we'll be sitting on the sidelines, not becoming too over leveraged, and basically having some dry powder for the long-term portfolio, waiting to see any type of a pullback in the market. If it continues, being prepared there, or basically, I guess, just waiting for a reversal for looking for more type of riskier type trades. Peace out, take care. I'll catch you guys later.